Have you ever experienced something so crippling in your life that has made you feel broken? I have. Are you someone who has a giving heart but is struggling to feel good themselves? Are you consistently putting your needs aside to take care of everyone else? If so, you're not alone. Giving starts with giving to yourself so that you are able to give of yourself to other people. Isn't it time you took back control and discovered what makes you tick? Join me in my journey and find out how you can feel better about yourself, live your best life, and share that with others. Thinking of yourself, it doesn't make you selfish, it makes you brave. I'm Nelia, and this is the Giving Starts With You podcast. If you're looking for clarity on your passion, sign up for my free 5-day email challenge today on my website at www.neliahut.com. That's www.neliahutt.com to sign up now. Welcome to another episode of the Giving Starts With You podcast. I'm your host, Nelia Hutt. And I am so blessed today and grateful to have met a wonderful new friend. Her name is Helida Dodd. Welcome to the show, Helida. How are you?
Thank you so much. It was so great to meet you. It was just such a perfect coincidence. So thank you for having me here, and I'm doing great.
That's awesome. Thank you for accepting my invitation to come to the show. More and more, I'm trying to highlight companies that give back, and you're a perfect example of that. And I feel so blessed to have connected with you as well. So I just want to share your wisdom with the audience and get right to it. So I'm going to tell you guys a little bit more about Helida. So Helida Dodd, she is a perfumer with lovers for, I'm going to start that part again. Helida Dodd is a perfumer for lovers of beautiful fragrances who cannot tolerate traditional perfumes, like me, because since I had my son, I just can't, the smell, so many things to learn about this. Through her careful, curated ingredients, she's here to show how luxury and nature mix perfectly in a bottle. Her career started as an industrial engineer, where she spent many years in healthcare, logistics, and supply chain management. Now she uses her engineering and chemistry background to create intricate perfumes. Her focus is to use raw materials that come from small farms and never ever work with anything that is endangered or poses a threat to the environment. So there's no animal testing ever, which I love. When she's not concocting her exquisite formulas, you can find her spending time with her husband, her beautiful 2 teenagers, and volunteering at school, biking, doing yoga, or daydreaming about traveling. So you can tell she's a career woman. She is passionate about what she does. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about that, but I think the focus today is going to be on travel and giving, and just how it relates to education and empowering youth. And I'm just so excited to get everyone to know Helida better, because I think the work that she's doing is impacting so many. So thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction.
So Helida, yes, congratulations on your business and your perfumery, and it just sounds so beautiful. I was looking at your website, and there's so much to learn. How did this all start? Like, what is your journey? How did it start with just wanting to become an entrepreneur and giving mixed with your company? How did it all begin?
Well, it's funny because I don't think I ever thought when I was a little girl I wanted to make perfumes. So it just kind of led me here. After I got pregnant with my first son, I couldn't tolerate perfumes anymore. And during my pregnancy, I would ban everyone that was close to me from using perfumes. So my husband had to stop using perfumes, and my parents, if they wanted to come, when they came over, because they live in Nicaragua, so I'd have to warn my dad, especially because he was a big offender. You will stop wearing perfumes when you're here. So I had horrible morning sickness, and then of course all of that goes away. But that lasted for about 12 years until, speaking of travel, we went to London, and my friend that's English sent me to have tea at her favorite place, Fortnum and Mason. She says, that's where where the Queen has tea, so you have to go there. I said, I'm there. So we went. It was a beautiful experience. I was not expecting that they also had other floors, and one of them was a beauty floor. And it was a long time. I hadn't been drawn to perfumes in that way, but I saw this so much beauty there, and I said, I'm just gonna go wander around. I told the lady all my woes about perfume, and she says to me, there's a lot of natural perfumers that are very famous designers. And I said, no way, tell me about that. And it just kind of like sparked a little thing in my head. I come from a family that loves to cook, and my grandmother had an amazing rose and jasmine garden. And she used to make like her beauty creams. Like she'd use crazy things like the mother of pearl buttons. She would grind them and use that to just put it in her creams. And I was doing research a few months ago, and I realized that mother of pearl, I mean, a lot of people use it in cosmetics. It's crazy. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. So just like that, she used to do a whole bunch of things, and cooking from scratch, all of that, just making things. And I was thinking when I went there, I was like, I know a lot of these ingredients, and I use them. And I said, maybe I can make my own perfume. But then, sometimes we just daydream for years. So like 3 more years went by until I went to Ireland, and I saw it in action. I saw this small perfumery in the middle of nowhere. You really needed, you wanted to go there, you had to make your way there. It wasn't, just part of the regular tourist. And we got there, and I realized just all the beauty, all every single ingredient was featured in their garden in the back. And she said to us during the tour, we make everything here by hand. We do it all from formulation to packaging and bottling, down to the last ribbon. Every single bottle that leaves this place is made by hand. We take so much care in doing that. And she looks at us and she says, and there's only 30 of us here. So I looked at my husband and I said, 30? I can do that. And my husband, I think, must have thought, yeah, 30 is a lot of people. But in my head, it was just like demystifying the whole thing. And that's how it started. I came back, I enrolled in a course in the UK, and it took like 3 more years for the first formula. So I can tell you, engineering and math, I had no idea how much math was behind perfumes. So that has definitely been a big plus in my background. And yeah, that's how it started. But there's always, traveling is, there's such a special thing about traveling, because when we go anywhere, my favorite thing is to really get to know the local people. We don't go to the big travel agenda places or eat at the big. We wanna feel that local cuisine. We wanna be there. We wanna just find out about their way of living, and it happens in every single country, which is just travel is completely intertwined in this whole thing. Not just from where the ingredients come from. I love it when it comes from small farms. I love finding out about their history and all of the stories that have been passed down from generation to generation, the care that they take in cultivating whatever ingredient that is, you name it. And to me, that's a very special thing. So we have a big focus in doing that. And I feel like that way we help other communities. Even, of course, some of these places maybe I won't ever get to go, but I know that we are helping this family legacy that has been passed down for so many generations. So it's a very special thing. There's so much there's so much of that emphasis that goes into how I pick the ingredients for the perfume, because I want it to be something really special. I don't want it to be just something that's, to me, that's just what makes it. And that's why I think that those words resonated so much with me at that perfumery in Ireland, because she said to me, we take so much care in every package that goes out the door. And that's how I want it to be. I want everything that goes in that bottle, from the ingredients that make up the perfume to everything that's around it, the packaging, to be sustainable, to be helping someone else in another country, somewhere else that I might never even meet, but I know that I am helping other people that way. So
I love that so much. I listen to you, and you know, there's so many women and men, and celebrate women, especially entrepreneurs who have, made a successful business for themselves. But I really respect the ones that find a way to give back. And in your case, just the raw materials coming from the farms, and you're giving jobs, like you're providing change for the people on the other side. So I love that you use those type of ingredients, and that you're impacting so many people. Sometimes when we buy something, we purchase something as a customer, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. And, there are ways to do things differently where it doesn't impact, positively other countries and other people. And you chose to not work that way. So I really respect you for that.
thank you so much. And it really, honestly, it goes local as well. So you just reminded me of something that I think it's important. I had the privilege to meet this lady from Brazil that lives like 10 minutes away from me. She's older, and in her day in Brazil, she was in high couture. She used to make all these designer dresses, and she's amazing. And she still is a seamstress. She came to the United States, I don't know how long ago, but she just happens to be the neighbor of a friend of mine. And when I found that out, I asked her if she would make little bags for me for the 50 millimeter bottle of perfume, which is the bigger bottle. And I did it for two reasons. One, I wanted to create something that was sustainable. And during the pandemic, when we only were going to the supermarket and I didn't necessarily want to carry a big purse, I would just put my credit cards in my pockets and leave the house. So when I was thinking about packaging for the bottle of perfume, I thought, why can't I just make a little pouch that people can just put their cards and take them with them? So it just served so many purposes, because it was sustainable. It was something that could be reused. At least that would be my hope. And then I got to work with a woman that's remarkable, and she's local, so it was just a win-win on all counts. And that's what makes this project like so special to me, that I can see it firsthand, I can see it locally, and then even the things that I can't see, like you say, but it's just really like a win-win on all counts.
So Alida, how did you start? I understand this started when you were quite young, but how did this passion for giving begin in your life?
Oh my gosh, I have seen it really just growing up. My grandmother was a woman that just, that's what she did. My grandfather was a dentist. He also had farms. So they were well off. And in those days, women really did not work, or did not need to work. For her, in her case, she did not need to work. But she worked, I'm not even kidding you, I think all of her money was for charity.
And this is in Nicaragua, right?
This is in Nicaragua, and they're from a tiny town. So the milk would come early in the morning in pails, right? They would basically be delivered by horse, if you can imagine that. And she'd have like these two big, huge pails that would come. And she would start making her, her packages. So when we were there on vacation, little girls, I mean, I must have been like 7 years old, she would send me to drop off the milk. So go take this liter of milk to so and so, and this other thing of milk goes over there to the other person. And there I was, can you imagine, like pigtails? And I think it was a blast because I would have my friend to get one side of the pail and me the other side, and just kind of like skip along, and the milk would probably just, spill a little bit here and there until we got to the house. But I would go deliver the milk. And then she had a neighbor that was a widow, and she had an adult child who was very ill. So my grandmother would send them a plate of food every single day. And whatever was cooked at our house, she would pack up a plate and she would send us, and she'd say, okay, go take this plate of food. And that was our job. And that was normal and fun. And I don't remember ever grunting. I think it was a ton of fun to go and drop off food and drop off milk. And I think I just kind of grew up seeing that. And I'm also from a country that's very poor. So when I go back, I have the privilege of making a difference. And for me, it's so important, I think, if these children were given the opportunity to have education, if they were given the opportunity to see what's possible. Sometimes, and we all need that. We need that art of what's possible, right? For me, it was that bird in perfumery. I saw it right in front of my eyes. They gave me that image of what was possible. And I know that we all need that. We give it to our kids, and a lot of times they follow in our footsteps. That's what they've seen. But imagine the people who don't have the means. And I see it so close to me, so close to where my mom lives. And I know the opportunity is there. And I always feel that if they were just given that image in their heads, if they were just given the opportunity of a pair of shoes so that they don't have to go with holes in their shoes to school, all of that. And one time we had just come back from our trip to Nicaragua. We go often. And my kids were very young. I think I had a first grader and maybe a fourth grader. And I said, well, someday I would love to walk into a school and just give shoes to everyone. And I said, some of those kids don't even have shoes. And I love the minds of the kids because they're not complicated.
This was something we were talking about the other day, how they don't see obstacles and challenges. No. They come up with an idea and they skip all of the negative stuff and all of the hard stuff and just, this is what we're doing, and even the story with your grandmother, you had spoken to me earlier before we hit record on this interview about how you feel that giving is also hereditary. It comes from parents teaching children, and I think that that's so important. Because of that background, it's another perfect example of how we are impacting our children and how our projects are starting. So can you tell me a little bit about how the lemonade stand, tell our audience how the lemonade stand became something bigger and is now nic-aid. Can you tell us that story?
Absolutely. So that time we had just come back and I basically blurted out, someday I wish I could just give shoes. I mean, it's something that's been in the back of my head for a long, long time, but life gets busy with kids and with no kids, and we mean really well, but there's so many other priorities we need to take care of. But like I said, the kids are very just clear and there's no complications in their lives. They looked at me and they said, oh no, we can do that. We can do that right now. And they said, let's just have a lemonade stand. And I looked at them and I said, yeah, sure, let's have a lemonade stand. And I didn't know that they were really serious about this, because that weekend came and they were like, all right, so we're having a lemonade stand, right? And I said, wait a minute. I mean, you just heard my story about how we like to cook and how we like to make everything. I'm here thinking, if I'm going to have a lemonade stand, I'm going to have a lemonade stand. I'm going to be squeezing those lemons, and, it's going to be great frozen lemonade and whatever. But I said, okay, let's do it next weekend. But again, we just got busy. Next weekend came, they were there reminding me. And those kids just did not leave me alone, basically. And until I said, okay, all right, let's make a date. And they invited their friends. Some of them came and they just held the signs, and it just turned out to be such a huge, beautiful morning from people that were just passing by and all of the friends that they had invited. And we raised over $1,000 that day. And we went back that
That's hard to
December.
do with just lemonade.
Oh my gosh,
Great.
yes, yes. I mean, we had baked goods and we
Yes.
had smoothies, and I told you it was a fancy lemonade stand. But of course, we also got some donations from the kids that were passing by, and $10 here, 50, 25s. And it was just so beautiful. And we asked my mom to buy that time. We had enough money to buy backpacks, school supplies, shirts, uniform shirts, and socks for the kids. And we asked her to buy them over there, which was another great way to do it, because she went to the local market and she bought it from the locals. And when we got there in December, we packed up the bags and then we distributed them. So it was full circle. It was from procuring and raising the money to packing the bags to physically giving them, which I can't even tell you how impactful that was, especially because we ran out of backpacks. We got over 300 people that day. And that feeling of, oh my God, and my kids were very young, and one of them just basically said, oh my gosh, some of those kids left with nothing. So it just kind of like helped us to think about the next time. How are we going to do it? And how are we going to make sure that we have for everybody? And it just started growing. We had some donations. We partnered with this other kids institution that they were collecting shoes. They gave us shoes. So we ended up taking shoes that next year. We had some backpacks donated as well, another year. So every year we did something different. And that's how it was. And it's been a wonderful thing. With COVID, we have not been able to go physically, but we still send things. But then now we get to kind of dream up other ways, right? Which we talked about. How do we had always wanted to do a summer school and teach them English. And I think with COVID, we all just saw that we could do things from far away, that we didn't necessarily need to be there. So we have been thinking about how to do that, how to start some sort of English program. It's been many years. We started this back in, I think, 2014 or 15. And since then, we have like some beautiful success stories. We have a little girl who is fluent in English. She graduated. She went to university. She graduated. She now has a car, which I know that to some people that's like the most normal thing, but to people who grew up in dirt floors, that is something unfathomable.
Walk for hours and hours and hours just to get to school.
Oh gosh, yes. Or they just stop because they can't get there. So she is now a grown young woman. She has her own child. And then we have another one who also did university, and she's quite the business lady. She went back and she lives in a very small town, but she basically supplies her little town with all of the necessities, and just everyday things that they might not have access to go to because of the city, it's a little bit too far for them. So I mean, we've seen so many beautiful things along the way.
And how have your children changed and evolved?
I feel like it's just funny when you ask me that, because I think it's just kind of normal. It's a way of living. It's just what
I
you
love
do,
that.
you know? So I can't even tell you they were like this before and they are like this now. It's almost like that's what they do. It's and
Yeah.
I think that's the difference when it's almost like something that's inherited, right? You inherit that from your parents. You grow up seeing that as a normal way of living. So
So
it's not
important.
even like you're doing something extraordinary, to be honest.
Mhm.
It's just what you do. And I love it because I feel like when you do that kind of thing, the gift is greater for
Mm.
the person who does it, because just that feeling that you have from from spending an afternoon with these children. We've done many different ways. The other thing that we did, as we were saying, okay, we want them to understand that it's not just about getting, right? So
Mm.
we also want them to spend time with us. We want them to talk to, like, my kids. I want them to have a conversation with Jack. I want them to be able to ask questions about what is it like to be an engineer, or to do this or to do
Mm.
that. So one of those afternoons, we gathered a group of like 60 kids and we played games, and we gave, whoever won, we did like trivia questions and all related to education. So whatever it was. And that was a way of just spending time with them, because I think that's also important. When
Mhm.
you give, it's important to not just give, but to go a little bit more than just giving out the pair of shoes, to
Absolutely.
spending the
I love that.
time.
I
Yeah.
love that so much. And that's why I love your project for so many reasons. First of all, you know, even though the children have the idea, you didn't knock it down. Like you were very open, because there are sometimes, children come to us and we think, oh my goodness, and then it just stops there. So I think adults need to open up their minds and open up their hearts, because sometimes as we grow up, we see things very differently as children, and we need to be more open, let them guide us sometimes, because they really do have remarkable ideas, and they're still led with their heart, right? Whereas we see the obstacles. So that's the first thing. But the second thing, so I want to commend you on that, because you could have easily done nothing. So, but you didn't, right? So the other thing is, I agree with you that it's not just about giving, it's the connection. So many times I spoke with many people down when I went to Guatemala, and most of them said to me, it's not about getting money or receiving something. It's about bringing skills and teaching us skills so that when you leave, we have something to move forward with. So I think that's so important. And just that human connection, because the way that we grow up here in Canada and the States, and the way that children grow up there, they don't really have time to dream. People don't teach them it's okay to want more. They usually just grow up, you have to work, this is what we need to do for the family, and nobody questions it. So just for them to believe that they have possibilities outside of what they know is huge. So I love that you guys spent that extra time with them, and that they were, you're able to show them what's possible. Because, here we take it for granted. It's like everything, we can do anything we want. The only thing that holds us back is our own work ethic and our own imagination. But there, people don't know, especially children, that there are options. That's why I really love that you mentioned that, because it's so beautiful. I really do look forward to working with you in the future, and like just connecting our projects, and it's going to be so beautiful. And I just I don't know, it's so much of an impact. And you say that for your children, it's a way of life, and it's not like here they were before and here they were then. But if they hadn't had that foundation from you and from your grandmother, it would be a different story. It doesn't mean that they would be ungrateful. It would just be a different story. And I think that's why it's so important when people go on vacation that they do more than just lie on a beach and go on vacation. That's fine if that's what people like to do, but maybe take a couple of days from that time away, especially if you have children, so that you can teach the next generation and do so. It doesn't have to be this big project. It's something, just thinking outside of yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we are, as a family, we're very fortunate because I'm from Nicaragua. It makes it a little bit easier for me in a way to I mean, like you said, I could be apathetic to the whole thing and just be like, I mean, this is just the way it is in my country, and the people who grew up like this, that there's no way out. It's not the case for us, but at the same time, I gotta say that that we do that all the time, but almost as we actually look forward to when we're going to Nicaragua, and we schedule, all right, these many days we're gonna spend with the kids, and then the rest of the time we do our thing, right? But and that is just, that's what makes it so special,
Mm.
to be honest, because it is definitely not just about going to lie on the beach. That's kind of nice, I mean, that's beautiful, but when you get to be with this community, that is really what's life changing.
Mm.
When you get to spend the time, when you go to their houses, and this this is something that it never stops really wowing me, that these communities that don't have a lot of anything,
Mhm.
they always have something to give.
It's so true.
They always have something to give. So
And
if
even if,
you,
sorry to interrupt, even if you don't want to take what they have because you know they have so little, it's a form of respect, right? So,
absolutely, absolutely, they will make you the most amazing meal or cup of coffee, or I mean, and it's just, to me it's beautiful because that coffee, they probably grew it right in their backyard, and they roasted it in a little pan, and then they ground it, and then they made you a cup of coffee, which is amazing. And I mean, I really have seen poverty.
mm,
Like I said, it goes, these people, it's the ones that don't have any floors, the ones that don't have refrigeration, that in order for their water to stay cool, they have to go in those big ceramic, not ceramic, but those big jugs. I don't even know how, it's almost like a clay.
mm,
And it's kind of funny because since I grew up also in that, I remember that taste, how the water tastes that comes from that clay pot, right? And there's that certain taste which is delicious. Of course, I grew up with it, so it brings me to my childhood. But it's those things that are so special. I mean, I can't even that. There's just no words to describe that. How special that is. There's no words.
and education is such a big part of everything as well. Like I was just thinking, the fact that you did the educational games and, and the English, because in those countries, learning English is such an door opener to jobs that pay more and are not necessarily in the fields, or then business grant, like all those things, just learning how to fill in an application for for a woman, for example, who wants to support her family and wants to try to get a business grant or anything that's goal oriented. How can we support you with your project? I know it's called nic-aid, like Nick for Nicaragua. How can we support you with everything that you're doing?
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for that. I might have to get back to you on this because at the moment we're trying to see when we can go back over there.
Hmm.
We already talked offline, which I loved, maybe joining forces. And I know your project with the ukuleles, it's just absolutely beautiful. And bringing music and education, I think, go hand in hand, because not just again, it's learning something, right? It's learning something that just gives you that joy that sometimes you might need, and you do that through music. And then the educational component, it's opening doors that maybe weren't there. So I think those two things go hand in hand, and we're going to be talking because you know that
Oh,
you know that for
I've already told my family I'm going to Nicaragua. But I see from your background how passionate and healing you find music is as well. I understand your whole family finds it very healing. So yes, it's just, and with the ukulele project, it's not just bringing music. It's like you said, making the children feel joy and forgetting about some of their hardships just for a little bit and connecting one-on-one and the excitement, that, and then from there, of course, there's help for some of those families of the project. But yes, I really do. I find, sometimes you meet people in life that just kind of come together. And we were introduced by a former guest of mine, who is remarkable as well, Gina. And and I don't know, I think I'm very appreciative of having to have met you. And I love that your children started this, and that it's something that you do every year. And it's so impactful. When you think of what a backpack means here, sometimes we buy a backpack for a child and it's like, oh, okay, we've got another backpack, you know. I know my son loves his, so he uses his for like 5-6 years at a time. But most kids get a new backpack every year. And it's so much more than a backpack when you give it to somebody who is like actually excited about going to school. It's like they feel proud. You're giving them like this sense of pride and dignity, and I'm worth something, and somebody cares about me, and I'm excited to go to school, and all of these things that we take for granted, and part of it makes me sad that people do have to feel this way. But, as givers, sometimes we feel guilty that we're not able to help more people. And I think that's something we have to be careful about too. The podcast is all about giving to ourselves and giving to other people. And it's so easy to feel that you're not helping enough. So sometimes I think it's a fine line between feeling the pain of these people, but at the same time, knowing that you're helping them, because it can easily turn into something of happiness to feeling guilty about not being able to do more. And I know that I had a few moments like that in Guatemala, which, I had a couple of days where it really hit me what I was doing there and the poverty around me. So I think we do have to know that living in a country like we live in, we shouldn't feel guilty about living here. We were just born in different circumstances, but it absolutely does mean that we have a responsibility to help other people. If you're listening to the show and maybe you want to create your own project, talk to Helida, talk to me. We can give you some insight on how we did it and how easy it is, and how all of us can think more like children and make things simpler and just take action. Because, I'm thinking of all the kids that you helped and how that's going to impact them and their generations. It's not just a pair of shoes.
Yeah.
It's a pair of shoes that allows them to go to school without having cuts and then needing medical care and then having debt in their family. And it goes on and on and on. People don't see that side of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're totally right about, which is the reason why we did that smaller group that next time around, which is why we said, we're going to invite the kids and we're going to know exactly who's coming by name, by shirt size, by shoe size, so that everybody, when they come here, and that was the 60 kids, they will have their own very special package with their name on it, that they know that nobody will leave this house with nothing. And that was a way of also, imagine our kids are young too, as we're helping, our kids are young as well. And while you want them, you want to teach them to help, you also want to, you can't cover the truth, right? You can't cover the need.
It's difficult to explain. Yes.
Yeah. they see it, but you can also allow them to just 100% feel like I did something beautiful without feeling guilty for not, not completing, or feeling like, oh, this was not enough. And I want to say something funny too, that I don't know. You asked me how my kids are different. My kids don't get backpacks every year, not because I don't want to buy it for them, but just because they don't really care. They're like, oh, my backpack is just perfect. And it has like Jack is a senior this year. I think he's had that backpack since he was like in 8th grade, and it's got like holes and stuff. He's like, oh, I'm going to finish the year with the same backpack. It's totally fine. Like he just does not care. And Annabella, the same thing. I mean, they don't feel like, oh, I need a new backpack just because it's, and I don't know, maybe it has something to do with what they've seen, or maybe it's just because they don't care. Who knows? But that's funny. Yeah, that, it was a funny observation.
Yeah, because I don't know, they teach us so much, but at the same time, like you said, we teach them by taking them to these places. Because, for example, that day that you ran out of backpacks, like how do you turn to your young child and explain that, yes, it's sad, but look at all the stuff we were able to do. Like, how do you explain? I know one of the observations my son made was a lot of the barbed wire in Guatemala. And he couldn't understand why the rich people had barbed wire around their homes and the poor people had no homes. So it's just the desperation, and the fear of mingling those two cultures together. But you learn so much and you become less afraid, I think, as a child, and more accepting of the world and more accepting of other people. And you expect perfection less often, which I think is really important, especially with, this is a whole new topic, but especially with mental health. A lot of us don't accept ourselves for who we are. And I find that giving and learning to receive too, as you said, is very important. It can really keep us in check with who we are. It can help manage so many things that come at our life. It makes us more resilient, and it just makes us feel, a little bit better about the world. And I think everybody wins, right? From the children creating the projects, to the parents who are helping them, to even the neighbors that came and donated to your first lemonade stand, how they felt. And perhaps then they had a discussion about their child behind closed doors about doing something similar. That's not even touching on the impact in these third world countries. That's just on our side. So if you can imagine, it's just a small thing has such a ripple. It really does help the family. Like, it changes your family, makes you closer. It changes your community. It changes their community. It changes the locals. Like even your grandmother, going back to using the locals for certain things, like it's just, yeah. And now you're doing it in your business. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing across the board. I think it's a wonderful example of everything that we can all do. We can all do this easily.
It is really not a far-fetched idea, and it doesn't have to be fancy. I think that's when we have to think like kids, right? That and just take all the obstacles out, and just go for it. Just do something that, whatever gives you joy, really, you're going to in turn just give that to other people. And I think, like I said, it's just like this big, huge chain of love that starts with like your grandmother, and even the people that came before her, to the people that will come after, because I know that it's almost that you leave a legacy of how to live. And I'm not even saying this, oh, high and mighty, this is like, when you ask me how does this impact, and to be honest, it's just like, it's not extraordinary for us. It's just that's it. It's just part of everyday life, and but then it just models something for your kids, and it's what they're going to do in some way. It's probably not going to look exactly like the way we did it, but in some way they're going to be giving. And at the end of the day, what else would you like for your kids, right? But to for them to be kind and giving,
Absolutely.
and just to know that there's people that are very different from them, and that respect, that compassion, that it just really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they're different or not, that it's the same level of compassion and giving and kindness that you show to absolutely everybody. So, so
I
no,
would
high and
love
mighty
to.
is here.
I would just love to interview your children
Oh my
because
gosh,
I think
absolutely.
I think it's so important that we hear it from that generation, and it's not to, like you said, we're not coming from a place of being high and mighty and look what I did. It's nothing like that. We
Yeah,
want to show you how easy it is so you can also do it,
absolutely.
and I think, giving, there's so many good things about it. It also prevents like stress and disease and from ourselves too, just being able to give. And I find that the more we understand other people, the more we give ourselves permission to take care of ourselves. And we can't do any of this if we neglect our own needs as well. So it's always give and take. And yeah, because caregivers can become burnt out so easily too. And we talk about that on the show too, and how it's so important to look after yourself so that you can do these types of things. If you're
Absolutely.
always giving to others, then eventually you stop because you just can't do it anymore. You're just the pressure can be there to help everyone. And so I think it's a fine balance, between taking care of ourselves and, and when we do have those challenges with the projects, there's always a way through them.
Yes.
It
And the
just
way they evolve, I'm
yes.
sorry, the way they
No.
evolve is something that you weren't even expecting, but it just, everything just has a life of its own, and it just starts going in places where you didn't think. So that's also something really beautiful, because you're just allowing. And I think when you give to other people, it's so important also for them to give you back.
Mm.
Because it's a way for them to feel that they're not just taking,
Mhm.
and it's a way of you receiving as well. Like what you say, you can't just give. I think there comes to a point in which it's not good. There's an imbalance there.
Mhm.
And we had those kids, some of them did folklore dancing, and they wanted to do a show for us. And of course, if we would have said, no, it's okay, you don't have to do it, then
Mm.
that defeats the purpose on so many levels. So that's their way of giving back, of giving you that cup of coffee, of giving you that little plate of food, or bringing some little sweets or something that they just bought, or they made. And that's just as important, to accept that and
Yes.
to allow them to give as well.
I love it. I know, one of the things I miss about my son being little is all the handmade gifts.
Yes.
And those have always meant more to me, the time that he put in and, than anything else. And I think he's starting to realize that, because this past Christmas, his gift to me was he made a video of me and my husband and our relationship
Oh my
for the
God.
past 30 years. We've been together 30 years. And
Wow.
where did you find these pictures? And where did you find, it was just the time that it took. So even though it's, some people might think of it as just a cup of coffee, like you explained so well. It's not just the coffee. There's a process to the coffee there. It's not just that they danced for us. It's the hours of rehearsing to make it perfect. It's those things are more, I don't know. I feel so much love when I receive things like that, more so than an item, or giving back in a different way. And it's also a way to respect them and what they have to offer, because they have their own gifts.
For sure.
And the gifts they have can't be replicated, by people maybe outside of that society, outside of, and I think that's when humanity takes place, and you really can appreciate and get to know people so much more when you can receive those special things. You find out what's special to them, what they have to offer, how they think, what they believe in. And I think it's quite rude not to accept,
Oh, absolutely.
and it can be very, very detrimental to their feeling of worth.
For
as well.
sure, for sure.
So I'm glad that you mentioned that. Thank you for reminding us, because sometimes we grow up and we're like, no, 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 I don't want anything in return. And that's how we grow up to just kind of no, 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 but we can't, it's not right. I think we do need to show respect in that way. And it really helps. Like it just, I don't know, with COVID, I've got this itch in me to just go and do more stuff. And it makes me sad because I want to get out there. But there's things that we can do to prepare in the meantime while we're waiting for flight. It doesn't mean you just stop. You can give in your community, or you can give to other things, or just maybe even learn the language and get ready for a trip. The other thing that you mentioned that I really want people to know is that things evolve, right? So the first time you did that project, then it evolves. You learn that, oh, maybe you didn't have enough backpacks. So the second time you change the way you do things. When you have an idea and you want to create some change in the world, for us, we like to do it international, but it doesn't have to be. It can be in your own community. But that when you do that, it can be made simple. And I think the more simple we show people it can be, the more people will do it. And if it doesn't work right the first time, you can alter it and do it better the next time. It doesn't have to be perfect to execute, is what I'm trying to say. Like, don't let things hold you back.
Oh my gosh, and you'll be surprised how many people want to help.
Yes.
Especially, so for example, I told you we invited our friends, and then from there it just grew. How many people wanted to help? Some people came with backpacks because they thought that they had to that we needed backpacks to be donated. So we got these super fancy backpacks, which those were the ones that we used as prizes, for example, when we did the games. So so they do, or like the kids that just that they went and they did the shoes. So, but I bet you, like here, for example, in the United States, there's so many poor areas. I mean, probably even just almost just as poor as Nicaragua, the whole Appalachia and everything. And which my husband happens to be from that area,
Mhm.
and I bet you that if we just sent an email to Jack and Annabella's friends and say we want to donate books,
Mm.
we would have more books than we need. So sometimes you'd, like I said, you'd be surprised just not just how easy it is, but also how many people are
Mm.
just willing to help and wanting to help. So you never do these things alone. You kind of
Yes.
start them, the idea starts, then the kids sort of, pester to go ahead and do that.
Yes.
And then you have this whole army of people that want to help.
Yeah.
For us, it's really and truly an army. For us, it's not just the friends that help us here locally by giving us their money, but also in Nicaragua, my mom and my nephews that are there. And sometimes one of those trips we were there and we weren't gonna make it on time to pack the things.
Mm.
So those kids did it. Those kids did that packing that one time. So there's always an army of people behind all of these things, but that army, it's there for you. It's like you don't have to, you don't really have to go recruiting so much. I mean, there's so many people that are willing and wanting to do that. So it's
I
just such
love
a
that.
beautiful team of people wanting to do this.
I love that so much. You know, I being an introvert, I know some people might think I'm not because, I'm on here talking, but this is the only time I'm not introverted. It's when I connect with people I love. But, being an introvert, I had a hard time asking for fundraising, asking for money. But when you think of where the money is going, what you're doing, you get over that real quick because it's not, you have to think of it as not, because that's a challenge for people. People sometimes have a hard time getting past the fact that, oh my goodness, I've got to ask for money. But you need money to buy backpacks. You need money to do these things. And unfortunately, that's the way it is. Um, and you don't have to have the money. You can raise the money through other people. It just takes a little bit from different individuals to make things happen. So if you are wanting to start your own project and your mindset is kind of stuck on asking, just know and remember, I should say, just remember why you're doing it. Remember, you're not asking for money for yourself. You're asking to help other people. And I think if you keep that in mind, why you're doing it, you will overcome that barrier, because it can be a big obstacle when people, have, and the other thing that I try to teach people is find something that means something to you when you decide what you want to give. Because I think if you're passionate about what it is you're doing, whether it's education or music or whatever it is, or even teaching business skills to somebody, the more passionate you are about it, the more often I find you'll do it. And it's not something that will be short lived. You'll actually enjoy it yourself, which means you'll do it more often. So you'll impact more people. So I think that's important too. Don't just find something you don't care about. Like,
Oh,
even if you're
yes.
volunteering in volunteer with something that actually means something to you, that you care about.
Sure, for sure. That's huge. That's what's key. That's what I was saying. Because that's when you're ignited by that, by something that just fuels your heart, then you can easily transfer. You can easily transfer that too when you're, if you need to do some fundraising.
Mhm.
But again, we go back to the kids. For the kids, what do you, for them, it's not asking for money. They were there waving those, those pamphlets and things that they made. Oh, they made them. They recruited their friend. All of the friends wanted to do that. They were taking turns. You
Wow.
saw the video. I
Yes.
mean, we had a whole all these kids that came from nowhere. It was just going to be mine, and all of a sudden, there's kids everywhere just helping. And I don't even think they see it as asking for money. I think for us adults, it's like, oh no, I can't ask for money. But it's not even, I think for them, it's just, nothing. It's just like,
Exactly. But
hey,
I mean, like,
we
more
have a
for
mission
adults.
to do.
Yes, exactly.
So,
We will definitely have to link that video. So beautiful. Made my heart smile so much. We will add the link to the show notes so everybody can, subscribe to it. And it's just amazing. And again, I commend you for not just the giving that you're doing with the project, but and teaching your children and all the things that I find fabulous about you, but also implementing that in your perfume business. This comes full circle. So even if you're an entrepreneur and you're listening to this, there is a way to give back in your business too. And I think if more of us concentrated on that in general, it would just be great. There's so many possibilities and so many ways to make the world a better place. And sometimes it's the smallest things that connect us. Like you said, it was only 60 children. It wasn't just 60 children. Sometimes it's better to do 60 than 600 because you connect with them one on one. With 60, you can make each individual one feel like they're somebody. Because sometimes when you live in these countries, it's all about working and food and hand to mouth and all of these things, like I had said earlier, and you don't have time to dream. But when you start to believe, hey, here's this woman from Miami, or here's this person from, Canada, the States, or the UK, and their life is so different than mine. It's not more glamorous and it's not more this and that, but they have more possibilities. And with that, you can really open the mind of a child in another country. And I think that is the most important part, is that you can give them hope. And just, I don't know, I just feel like so many people in these third world countries never have a chance to think of more than just what's happening in that moment. And they don't know that that's a possibility. They don't know that exists. So going somewhere like that, and just even going for a visit and talking with the children, really, it opens their eyes. Like, what is that? Like, they don't recognize that. They get so excited when you're walking down the street because you're like, wow, there's something new. And that doesn't happen around here. And because all they see is what's right in front of them. Right. And that changes everything. Like you said, couple of the people that you helped are now, one has a car, one has, it's just, it's not the car, it's owning something and getting there with their own, like their own hard
Sure.
work.
I mean, that's really nearly impossible
Mm.
to do over there.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens is just it creates that huge chain reaction, because then their peers, right? Look, she did it. And they're the kids in that same group, the
Mm-hmm.
people she knows. Now she is that art of what's possible. She is the one that's going to be modeling that. Just like the other one who went to her little town. She is something that probably other people, someone that her other, the other people that live in her town can look up to. Look what she did. Why can't I do that? So they don't even have to leave where the place where they grew up or anything, but right there they start creating their own possibilities. They
Mm-hmm.
don't have to go somewhere else. You know what I mean? They know that within the place where they live, they can make a different life. And that's how it just starts going and going and going, because then they're gonna have kids and nephews and nieces and all the kids in their neighborhood. So that's where the ripple effect is completely beyond our control. So that's one of the most
I'm so
beautiful things.
glad. I'm so glad we're having this conversation, because it's not about ukuleles and it's not about backpacks and it's not about shoes. It's about connecting with other human beings and showing them that they too are worth something and what is possible for them, so that they can create change where they are. Because in these third world countries, the only way things are going to change is if people know that it can change. They do have a say, what they feel matters in their community, and if we can empower those people, that's what it's all about, honestly, is creating long-term change, right? So thank you so much, Helida, for coming here today. I mean, we could talk forever, but I just love what you're doing. I love what your family is doing. Thanks for teaching us so many things and telling us about how this all started. And yeah, I wish you all the best with your perfumery. And I know that we're going to keep in touch.
Yes, for sure. I know. I know we'll be on the other side, whether it's Guatemala or Nicaragua, and we're definitely going to be, wow, just taking so much over there and bringing so much back.
Yeah.
Bringing even more things than we didn't even imagine, which is
Spreading awareness, right? That's what it's about. Like
yes.
anybody can do it. It's so easy, just try.
Yes, for
And
sure.
if anybody who's listening wants to get in touch with Helida, where can we find you?
You could find me at my website, marbeaperfumes.com. You could also email me, which is elida@marbeaperfumes.com. And you can find me on Instagram, Marbella Perfumes. So you cannot escape
all the
me.
links there. I'm going to
Yes.
put all the links there. Yeah. And, watch the video, because I think it's going to open your hearts. I'm going to for sure link that here. And is there anything we didn't talk about today that you wanted to mention?
Nothing. I think just honestly, don't think about it too much. When you travel, go find those local people. Go see how they live. Get to know them. Get to know their foods, their way of living, and you never know what you'll find there. You never know how you will want to help either there or just somewhere else that's close to your heart. And it doesn't have to be internationally. It could be right here in your backyard. There's just so much to do, to give, and the benefits to ourselves are not that, honestly, it's just, of course, right? We don't do it for benefit.
It's
It
a
just
bonus.
comes.
It's a
It
bonus.
really comes. It really comes back tenfold. And that's not really why we do it, but that's a very nice surprise. And the joy that comes from that, just that burst in your heart, is something that's inexplicable. So go ahead and go out there and see how you can help.
Thank you, Helida.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure to be here and to get to know you. And I'm just excited about what's coming.
So am I. I can't stop thinking about it. Want to receive updates and freebies from the Giving Starts With You podcast? Sign up at www.neliahut.com. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, please subscribe or leave a review. See you next week on the Giving Starts With You podcast.